home must have been unbelievable as well.
Yeah, it really was. Obviously, doesn't touch being in the stadium, and I got a lot of FOMO seeing what was going on in that stadium yesterday. It looked absolutely incredible. But look, to beat Liverpool, look, I told you lot. I told you we could beat Liverpool. I literally told every single one of you. Sim was like, oh yeah, I'll take a point here and a point there off Liverpool and Arsenal. I said 4 points minimum is what we need. And that is exactly what we got from these two games. And everyone, including myself, was saying, look, it's all well and good playing well and getting these results, but we're really going to get tested on these two games against Liverpool and Arsenal. And I think we passed the test with flying colours, to be honest. A draw away at the Emirates and a win at home to Liverpool, albeit under a few crazy circumstances, not going to lie, with refereeing decisions that finally have gone our way. And that made it even more sweeter for me. It really did. Like, I'm not hearing any of this crap about you got the refereeing decisions come your way. Spurs stole a victory. How many times have Liverpool done that to us? How many times?
Countless.
Diego Jota only just got sent off for the foul he did on Ollie Skip last year. That's what he got sent off for. You know what I mean? That high boot on Ollie Skip. He finally got sent off. The Sissoko penalty in the Champions League final. The Robertson high foot on Tanganga. I mean, I remember an offside goal as well that we scored that wasn't really offside and got counted and ruled for offside a couple of years back as well. So we've had countless amounts of decisions against us over the years, and wrongly so. So it felt like kind of all those decisions put to one, coming into one game to overturn it. So it was really sweet for me the way it was overturned.
We kind of got all, as you say, kind of all those bad decisions rolled into one game. We kind of got our own back on Liverpool for once, and that's something that just continuously happens year on year against Liverpool. We always don't get the rub of the green. We're the ones usually conceding the last minute winner as well. So it was nice for it to have a bit of a turnaround yesterday. But look, let's get into the match review in what was an unbelievable game of football in the end, full of events. We'll start obviously at the start of the game. Well, look, let's talk about how the game was 11v11 for the first 25 minutes, because not many people have spoken about that element of the game. I thought we did start the game fairly well. Liverpool, I think it was kind of an even game. I would say 11v11. Maybe Liverpool was shading it at that moment, but I actually thought the in like how the game was playing out 11v11 was pretty spot on in terms of how we assessed it before the game. I thought we were winning that midfield battle. I thought Basuma, Maddison and Sarr were playing really well in the central park, and we were playing through them pretty effectively. I thought obviously Richie started on the left this time, which was a bit of a surprise going into the game. We thought maybe Manuel would play, or if Richie was going to start, he would be through the centre. But I thought that was a clever decision from Postecoglou, because I thought Richie had a better game out on the left, and he was causing him a bit of trouble out on the left-hand side. But Liverpool, obviously, with their forward line, they were causing us also a lot of trouble going the other end, and Vicario had to make a good double save to keep us level at that point. So how did you feel the game was going when it was 11v11?
I felt like Liverpool were playing on the transition against us, letting us dominate the possession, and they were hurting us because they know they can hurt us with those quality players that they do have. And I felt like when it was 11-on-11, yeah, maybe we had a bit more kind of control in the game in terms of possession, but I felt like they were hurting us more in terms of the chances that they were getting. Like you say, Vicario makes a great double save, but I felt like Liverpool were a lot more dangerous than us 11-on-11, to be honest.
Yeah, but I felt like, I agree with you, but I felt Basuma was having a great game, like at the start of the game as well. I thought in the middle, I thought he was really looking confident, and Liverpool struggling to deal with him a bit. Maddison was buzzing about. We didn't really have, apart from I think Richarlison had a flash across the face of goal, and maybe we had a couple of half moments. We didn't really, Alisson didn't really have to make any saves. I don't remember too many chances, but I didn't think that like it was a pure domination job at all. Like 11v11, it was quite. I felt like it was an even game with Liverpool probably looking the more dangerous. So I probably agree with that. And then obviously it was I think the 25th minute, Curtis Jones does get that red card. VAR overturns it after an original booking. A lot of Liverpool fans complaining about the fact that Jones kind of the challenge he initially went in for wasn't so high, but his his foot seems to deflect off the ball and then end up halfway down Basuma's shin. And in the end, I guess they're complaining. They're saying if you take a freeze frame of that moment, it looks bad. But actually, if you take the context of the challenge, it maybe wasn't as bad as the VAR are making out to be. But at the end of the day, from my point of view, that challenge could have been a leg breaker. At the end of the day, it was quite dangerous how it ended up. But do you understand their frustration, or do you think when you saw it, you like that's a red?
When I first saw it, I thought it was a red because when the referee goes over to the monitor, the frame is frozen on the kind of high boot into Basuma's shin. And from that freeze frame alone, it looks like 100% a red. But I do have a bit of sympathy, to be honest, because he was going for the ball. He only had eyes on the ball. And he actually kind of gets the ball and then his foot kind of rolls over the ball. And then he kind of slips into Basuma's shin. So I did think it was a tad harsh. But I mean, there are a few different ways you can read it, to be honest, and it's not just completely full-blown not red, and it's not full-blown red. So I think it was right for the referee to go back to the monitor and to make a decision on what he thought was the correct decision. But I think it could have gone either way, to be honest. I don't think it was a clear cut either way.
Well, if it could have gone either way, maybe VAR shouldn't be getting involved because they only should be getting involved in clear and obvious errors. But I guess that's what VAR should be there for. That's what they said that's going to be there for. But I feel like Curtis Jones can definitely count himself a bit unlucky that that's how the challenge ended up. But it could have been a very serious injury, couldn't it, on for Basuma? And if he does end up, breaking his leg or something, you can't really say, oh, the ball deflected off his foot and all that. At the end of the day, it's a bad challenge, and his studs makes bad contact, and he's got a lot of force in that. So I don't think that decision they can say they were robbed with, but I can understand their frustrations, and they were maybe a bit unlucky in that situation, how it all panned out. But when it goes 11v10, you're thinking, look, okay, we've got the man advantage, we're at home, even though it's a good Liverpool team. I think at that point, even I'm thinking, look, we saw how they played against Newcastle when they were 1-0 down and down to 10 men. And so I wasn't saying it was a foregone conclusion, but obviously I'm confident that we can go on now, win this game, especially the way we play. I'm thinking that should be perfect to play against 10 men. That's what I'm thinking. But they ended up, Liverpool should have really taken the lead, shouldn't they? Because Diaz is played for on goal by Salah. Unbelievable finish by Diaz, by the way. Underrated from that tight angle, how he finds that far corner in off the post, and unbelievable from the VAR not to get involved in that situation and not give the goal. And we proper got let off the hook with that situation because that was clearly onside. And I think I was reading what really happened in that situation. Apparently what happened was the VAR thought that the on-field decision was a goal. So when he was checking the offside situation, he saw that it was clearly onside. He did draw the lines, and he saw that the ball was clearly onside, and so he said check complete because he thought that the on-field decision was a goal, not offside. And then so the referee hears check complete. Now obviously the on-field decision was offside, so when he is check complete, they think, okay, check complete is offside, and the play restarts. And then once the play restarts, they can't then go back. Apparently, once play restarts, that decision's over. So absolute cock up of communication from the VAR at that point. But we absolutely got away with one in that situation, didn't we?
It's absolutely farcical. I think that might be the worst decision I've ever seen VAR make, to be honest. I really think it is. I was watching it. I don't know what it was like for you lot in the stadium, but I was watching it. And they did the replay without the line on TV, and I'm sitting there. I go to Dad. I go, where's the offside there? I just don't understand. And he's like, yeah, I didn't see it anyway. But they've gone to VAR, so we just assumed all right, fine. They've seen something that they haven't shown on TV, or something was out of the image, or something. I don't know. But we both looked at it. And we're both like, what's going on here? Because that doesn't look offside whatsoever. Did you see in the stadium it was clearly onside? Well,
we obviously didn't get the images. I saw at half time. I was looking at the images at half time on my phone. I was like, that looks onside to me. I didn't even see it with the line, but I was looking. I was like, that definitely looks onside. So it was very strange. But you also never know really when you see an angle, because a lot of the times you look at an angle and it looks onside or it looks offside, and then they draw the lines in it, and it's very different. So I didn't see any images with the lines in it, but apparently some of of the broadcasters, not in England, but some of the broadcasters, I think it was beIN Sports, did an image with the line and it showed how it was onside. So I was looking at that and I was thinking, that's very, very odd. But listening to what happened, that kind of explains, because a lot of people are saying, oh, why didn't VAR draw the lines, all this kind of stuff, and why, and so they did draw the lines. They saw that it was onside, but there was just a cock up in what the on-field decision was, and that is inexcusable, really. How that lack of communication. I'm sure that I can only imagine that in the VAR room, once play restarts, they must be going crazy, like, oh my god, what just happened? Because they thought that they were giving the goal, and then all of a sudden he sees a free kick. They must be like, what the hell is going on? Like
Who said that happened? Because I don't even know like how they had time to draw the lines, because it all just happened so quickly.
No,
it was just like,
it happened quickly because it was such an obvious decision. It was so clearly onside. That's why it happened quickly, if you understand. So they draw the.
Why didn't they show the lines on TV or anything like that?
I don't know. I don't know about that, but that was the explanation that apparently has been. There's a guy on Twitter, Dale Johnson. He's like the VAR expert, and he was explaining that's what happened during that incident, and it's a monumental cock up because as well, if Liverpool are 1-0 up at that stage, even though they're down to 10 minutes, a very different game. It gives them something to hang on to as opposed to Spurs chasing down at 0-0. At 1-0, I think it changes the game completely. So I think Liverpool can have a massive right to feel aggrieved about that. It's how the VAR and the referee can't get their communication right as to what the on-field decision was is absolutely crazy. So, I mean, there's no other explanation as to just a massive communication error between the VAR and the referee, and it led to that situation. And obviously, if that was Spurs, I'd be absolutely fuming, and Liverpool have a right to be fuming in that situation as well. So, look, we should have been 1-0 down. Completely got away with it. I think within a few minutes of that decision as well, we go 1-0 up. So definitely a bit of luck there. But in terms of the goal we scored, really well worked goal, wasn't it? Beautiful ball by James Maddison in behind Richarlison. Perfectly timed run from him. And Rishi being on the left does very well to square it very quickly for Heung-min Son to tap home. I was a bit questionable about Alisson's positioning for that goal. I felt he probably shouldn't have been in that position he was. Maybe he was worried about Richarlison shooting, but really well worked goal to break the deadlock, and I wouldn't say deserved, but it was a good moment for us.
I felt like as much as Liverpool had that goal that was disallowed, I still felt like after Liverpool got that man sent off, we were the better team and we were the ones in the ascendancy and we were the ones asking more questions. So I did feel like it was kind of a deserved goal, to be honest. Whether it should have been 1-1 or 1-0 is a different question. But I felt like the goal was a really well teamwork goal. That ball from Maddison into Richarlison was absolutely top notch. And obviously Richarlison did really well, because usually sometimes in those positions, Richarlison panics a little bit and maybe does a rash shot or something like that. But he was very calm and collected, just placed it into the path of Heung-min Son, and Heung-min Son was never going to miss from there. So I thought it was a really well worked goal. And I felt like it was kind of like rewards for the good work that we were doing, because I felt like once they did go down to 10 men, I felt like we were working the ball really well, and there was a moment in the game, maybe before stoppage time at the end of the first half and after the sending off, where we were really in the ascendancy.
Yeah, I agree. I think we had them on the ropes a bit just after the goal. I think Richarlison hits the post. We have a couple other openings where it looked like we were going to take them to the sword. But I also felt like we needed to take advantage of that moment, because we saw what they did against Newcastle. They kind of hung in there, didn't they? And they ended up bringing on Núñez late in the game, and he changed it. So we didn't want it to be 1-0.
He was getting ready to come on, by the way. He was getting ready to come on just before the second red card. He was stripped off. He was on the side. He was ready to go. And I'm thinking to myself, like, oh, God, if Núñez comes on now, we're in trouble with the way Liverpool are in the transition, even with 10 men. And luckily at that point, Jota gets sent off and the sub doesn't happen.
Yeah, we got very lucky. But look, we'll get on to that in a minute. But at that moment, so it's still 1-0. We didn't take the chances when they came. If Rishi's shot is an inch to the left, maybe we're 2-0 up. But I felt like in that last 5 minutes of the half, we definitely did lose our way a bit. And Ange was commenting on that after the game. They make it 1-1 with a really poor goal defensively from Tottenham's point of view. Van Dijk wins which, by the way, no one's mentioning, but Udogie gets a yellow card for a foul on Gakpo, which he wins the ball pretty cleanly, I felt. I didn't think that was a free free kick, so no one's really talking about that moment. But that's where Liverpool's goal came from. But defensively, really poor goal. Van Dijk wins a header pretty unchallenged at the back post, and I felt like as well Gakpo was able to take a touch, swivel, and shoot in the box with no real challenge on him. And I was actually I'm watching.
Van de Ven was slow to react.
And also Basuma, Basuma and Van de Ven should be throwing themselves at that situation, and both of them didn't. They kind of let him shoot, which was really disappointing. If they get if they're aggressive and get really close to him and close him down, that shot gets blocked. That shot shouldn't be difficult to block because he literally has to swivel and bring his leg back a lot to get that power in that situation to in that moment in the box. And he's got two men around him, and they're both very slow to get to him, and they're both not putting their body on the line. And I was very disappointed in that goal, to be honest. And you shouldn't be allowed to swivel and shoot like that in the box from a free kick, especially after you've taken a touch as well. So I think Van de Ven and Basuma did not cover themselves in much glory for that goal, and hopefully they'll learn from that.
Yeah, no, 100%. It was very frustrating, but I think Mickey Van de Ven was an absolute. I thought he was unbelievable throughout the 90 minutes, to be honest. Every time Liverpool looked like they were going one-on-one with Vicario, just Mickey Van de Ven just pops up of nowhere with those recovery challenges, and those are the moments that we bought him for. Like the attributes that he has is just like unbelievable in those kind of situations. But I was kind of let down with a few situations like that, and in the offside goal that didn't count in the end. I thought Salah kind of physically got the better of him, to be honest, when I don't think he had any right to at that stage.
Yeah, so look, we go into the halftime 1-1. So obviously it's not going horrifically, but look, just before halftime to concede that goal is a massive blow. But I thought we came out in the second half a lot quicker, looking to rectify the situation. Maddison has a good shot from range, which Alisson saves. Son has a good volley as well, which Alisson tips over, which was a phenomenal save. So it looked like Tottenham were really building ahead of steam. And what was also good was that obviously I missed out as well just at the end of that first half. Diaz had that chance which should have really made it 2-1 to Liverpool, which he puts wide. But what was good about the start of the second half anyways, Liverpool didn't seem to be able to create those chances I felt that they were doing at the end of the first half, which was crucial to sustain the pressure from Spurs. And we were really on top at that moment and actually testing Alisson. So that was really, really positive. And then I think the sustained pressure paid off with that red card for Jota. Two fouls on Udogie. I thought definitely the first one he can count himself a bit unlucky for, because he doesn't really make a challenge. It wasn't a foul. I would say is he doesn't make a challenge, but he does make contact with. Everyone says Udogie tripped himself. He didn't. What happened was Udogie was running and his back heel clips Jota. Jota's I think it was his shin, and it makes him trip himself essentially. So there was contact from Jota, but Jota actually doesn't make a challenge. Yeah, Jota's just running. Jota's running with him. He doesn't actually make a challenge. So I agree with you. It's not a foul. And or if it is a foul, it's not a yellow card because it wasn't cynical. It was just an accidental clash. So I think Jota can definitely feel very unlucky to be on a yellow card, and maybe he felt a bit frustrated with that situation.
You know what, though? When you're on that yellow card, you can't make a challenge like you did for the second one. That second one was cynical. That second one was definitely a yellow card. And if you've been booked a minute before that to make a challenge like that, I mean, you've only got yourself to blame, really.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I think that second yellow card, you can have few complaints, although you can feel aggrieved about the first yellow. But then they're down to 9. And it was a bit weird because I thought against 10, we were much better. And then once they went down to 9 men, and all of a sudden you look at the clock, it's 68 minutes on the clock. So we got a good 22 minutes plus stoppage time. You're thinking plenty of time to make use of this situation where they're down to 9 men. Not only that, they take off Salah and they took off Diaz and they brought on defenders, which is understandable when you're 2-man down. But they literally had no attacking force on this. They literally had no attackers on. I think the furthest played forward at that point was Szoboszlai, who was pretty much a midfielder anyway. So they literally put all the men in the box, and it was all about basically, can you break us down? Can you force any situations? And for 22 minutes, to be honest, I don't think Alisson made a save. And that was probably the most disappointing thing about that last 22 minutes was we obviously we were going to be dominant. We were the ones going to be in control. Liverpool didn't even enter our half, I think, for the final 22 minutes. But they were obviously, every time they had the opportunity, they were going down, winning free kicks. They were wasting time, which is, again, understandable when you're down to 9 men. But the frustrating thing was we just didn't seem to, we didn't look like scoring at all in those final 22 minutes, to be honest. There were very few. What was also a bit disappointing was I felt like we were putting crosses in, but there weren't that many men. There was like Richarlison in there, and there wasn't anyone really support, because obviously we took off Son, and Madison took off Son after like 69 minutes, which Postecoglou has admitted after the game it was always pre-planned because he wasn't 100%. He said it was a pre-planned sub, but maybe like Valise came on very late on. Maybe we could have brought him on a bit earlier just to have a bit more presence in the box, because let's be honest, did we need 4 defenders on at that point? Because they just had no attackers, so maybe we could have forced that situation a bit more, but we weren't causing any problems from crosses. We weren't spamming any shots from maybe the edge of the box from like Solomon or Kulusevski. I thought Kulusevski was a bit frustrating those last 20 minutes, albeit I thought he had a good game overall. I thought those last 20 minutes he was a bit frustrating, and it seemed as though we didn't know how to attack them, because it's like we didn't want to cross it in because we didn't have that much of a presence, but we were also very reluctant to shoot from like outside the box as well. So it ended up in a situation where we were just passing it around the box.
We were never going to win headers in the box. We were never going to win headers in the box. They had Van Dijk, they had Kanate, they had so many defenders just lining the box. And when you look at it, I mean, sometimes you just got to give credit to the defensive team and the way they set up and the way they set up to frustrate us as well. I think they did such a good job, Liverpool, when they had down to 9 men, flooding that box, giving us no space whatsoever. You know, Spurs like to work in those spaces. You saw the last time when we tried to work in congested areas against Sheffield United, we only kind of overturned that result in the last few minutes as well. So it's definitely a question mark against the team trying to break down these low blocks. And without Heung-min Son and Maddison also, who went off in the final minutes of the game, it was a big source of frustration, to be honest. But we kept floating balls in the box, and we were never going to win the headers because we had no one nowhere near as good as in the air as Kanate and Van Dijk.
But that for me, that's where you've got to make your extra man advantage count. So I understand. I think your point is right. I think they probably wanted us to be floating balls into the box. And when you've got Kanate, you've got Matip, you've got Van Dijk, that's probably their bread and butter. But I just felt like we didn't have the numbers in the box to compensate for that. So the only way I think you compensate from a situation like that is if you just overwhelm them with sheer numbers and like in the box, and you just literally flood everyone in there, and you just make sure that even if it goes over one Liverpool defender's head, we've got a man there to win the header. And I just felt like we didn't commit enough players into the box in attacking those situations enough, and that was a bit frustration. If you're not going to do that, you got to maybe find some space in and around the box and take some shots and try and beat Alisson from range. You know, you've got Solomon there who's a good shooter. Kulusevski's got a decent shot on him. I know Maddison and someone off, so that was a bit of frustration, but you know, you've got to try in something different. I felt like we just resorted to passing in and around the penalty area, and we didn't really ask enough questions, I felt, in that last bit of the game, and it literally was petering out. It looked like it was going to be a very, very good point for Liverpool, and I agree with you. I think you've got to give them massive credit, because it's not easy when you're down to 9 men, especially like against a good team like us, to hold us out, and actually to restrict any sort of chances we were created was probably the most impressive thing from their point of view, that we just didn't look like scoring at all against 9 men in those last 20 minutes. But to be fair as well, I think when they do go down to 9 men, even with 10, they left a couple of attackers on, didn't they, and showed a bit of a willingness to go forward. But once it's down to 9, it's literally all 9 players were either in that defensive midfield or literally penalty area. Sorry?
They had 1 or 2 breakaways where maybe if we did commit a few more men forward out of the defence, I mean, Cuti Romero was essentially playing as a central midfielder, to be honest, when they went down to 9. So I think if we did commit anyone else more forward, then those like 1 or 2 breakaways that they did have could have been very dangerous situations. And imagine the storyline if they go down to 9 men and they end up nicking that game 2-1.
That would have been too much. That would have been really too much. But look, we did, as you say, keep going until the very last moment. It was literally, I would say, probably
never stop.
what was it? It was in the 96th minute, or 6 minutes added on, wasn't it? Literally the last chance we had. I think I said in the vlog, it's going to be now or never for Spurs just before we scored, and it did turn out to be now. And I actually said to Graham just before that, I turned to him, I was like, if we're going to win this, it's going to have to be either deflection or an own goal, because we're not creating anything. And Porro, I think one of the only, or a penalty as well, but it was probably one of the only times in those last 20 minutes we actually flashed the ball across the face of goal as opposed to floating it in. And that was maybe what Postecoglou after the game said, we didn't vary our attack enough in those last 20 minutes, and maybe that's why we struggled. But Porro flashes a brilliant ball across the face of goal, forces a mistake from Joel Matip. He puts it in the back of the net. Veliz was actually waiting there at the back post. Maybe we were robbed of a Veliz debut winner, which would have been nice. Obviously, he didn't have that much time on the pitch, but he flashes it in. It goes to the back of the net. We end up taking 3 points. In massive scenes ensues, and it was an unbelievable moment. And it was an unbelievable way to win 3 points, and keeps our great start to the season going. But yeah, what a moment, and as well, great moment from my man of the match, Porro, who I thought was exemplary throughout the game.
Pedro Porro was my man of the match as well. I thought he was absolutely class throughout the day. Those sliding challenges, man, he is getting so good defensively. He really is growing into that role now, getting better and better game on game. That cross at the end. Thank you, Joel Matip, for giving us those scenes and the 3 points to take home from. And to win like that in that sort of style against Liverpool, I think it was the most perfect way to beat Liverpool because of what I've said earlier on in the stream about how many times we've been so unlucky against them. It's about time we rode our luck against Liverpool, and it's about time we got some luck against them. So I couldn't be happier with the way we won that game.
100%. And for all the last minute heartbreak, literally year on year there is last minute heartbreak against Liverpool whenever we play them. So the fact that it turned it on its head this time and we were the ones getting advantage in the last minute, I couldn't be happy with that situation. I was absolutely delighted, and it just keeps that good feeling and that good run going. It keeps that belief going that we just keep going to the end. After the Sheffield United goal in the last minute, now a last minute goal this time against Liverpool, it just fuels that belief that we're moving in the right direction, that the way we're playing, bro. Yeah, momentum as well. Hopefully, the knocks to Maddison and Son, or even Basuma, who had to end up going off as well, who maybe that challenge from Jones maybe had a bit of an effect on him. But hopefully those injuries aren't telling, because I think it was a big indication for me personally that the depth coming off the bench weren't great, in my opinion. I thought Skip, Højbjerg, Davis, I mean, I'm not to say I thought they were terrible when coming on, but they're just not the same quality, and you saw the quality drop when they did come on. And I thought obviously they kept the momentum up and they kept the energy up, but the quality just wasn't there, I felt, from those players coming off the bench. Veliz only had a few minutes. He had a couple of nice touches, but obviously wasn't really involved too much. I thought Solomon as well on the left-hand side, very much flattered to deceive. He did beat Trent a couple of times, but wasn't really able to do much on that left-hand side when coming off the bench. Didn't whip in many crosses or anything like that. So if there are injuries, you are starting to see how maybe our depth is lacking a bit coming off the bench in those last 20 minutes. So let's hope that those injuries we need them back for the next game, essentially.
Yeah, look, I think we can handle going to Luton with a few injuries. I think we can handle that. But luckily, we got international break after Luton as well. So there's actually a couple of weeks now where we've got time for players to recover. So,
not if they're playing for their international teams.
Well, if they're injured, then they won't be, essentially. So I think it's good. It's probably a good time for the international break to come, to be honest, if we've got a few knocks and injuries. But we've got, I was saying about momentum before, and this is the exact way that Arsenal got themselves in the title race last season, because nobody thought that they would be anywhere close to Man City last season. They had some really good results at the beginning of the season, and that kind of got that momentum going and got them going on a winning run. In that first half of the season, they were one of the best teams in the league. And I'm not saying that Spurs are going to go in a title race this season, no chance. But what I'm saying is that momentum is growing at Spurs right now, and I think after the Arsenal game, after the Liverpool game, and after the Sheffield United game, all three of them are such morale-boosting kind of performances and such morale-boosting results as well. So you're looking at the fixtures now, And our next 5 games, you're looking at like Luton, Fulham, Palace, Chelsea, Wolves, Villa. I mean, we need to be looking to get like maximum points. I'm not even joking. Like our hardest game there is probably Villa. And apart from that, I mean, you probably want to be getting maximum points. And if we do get maximum points in all these games, what a start to the season it's been.
100.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, but look, you saw with Man City losing to Wolves yesterday as well. You can't take anything for granted in this league. So I think we just got to take it game by game. But look, coming off of the Arsenal and Liverpool games with 4 points is beyond my wildest dreams, to be honest. I never thought that we could do that. And the fact that we won this game as well. 100%. Look, you couldn't have predicted 2 red cards. To be honest, I don't think we win this game if they're not down to 9 men, to be honest, because I felt like Liverpool were even with 9 men, they nearly got a point. So I think Liverpool were desperately unlucky. I have to give them credit. I think there was just one of those days where the referee absolutely robbed them. I think the referee ruined the game, to be honest, a bit from their point of view, I have to say, which is a massive shame for them. But for us, we'll take the 3 points, and I don't really care.
How many times has the referee done it to us? Have 100%. No sympathy for them whatsoever.
I have no sympathy. I don't have any sympathy. I'm just from their point of view. I think just objectively, the referee definitely ruined that game a bit, and it was a shame because it was set to be a great game. After 25 minutes, it looked like it was really going to be open, great football from both sides, and the referee did kind of ruin the game as a spectacle a bit, because then it just became attack versus defense for a lot of that game, and it's just about if Tottenham can breach their defense, which we did end up doing in the 90th minute. But I think we do have to keep our feet on the ground because that performance, although look, Liverpool are a great team, so just beat them in any situation is impressive and significant. How we struggled to break them down when they had 9 men was definitely a bit telling for me about we've still got a lot of work to do when it comes to what Postecoglou's doing. But look, of course we do. We're only 8 games in.
Sometimes it's harder to play against 9 men than it is against like 11 men, because you know that with Liverpool with 11 men, even with 10 men, they're going to leave us space at the back for us to attack in, and that's kind of playing into our hands a little bit. When it's 9 men, like I said before, we struggle trying to break down these low blocks and putting all men behind the ball, and the top defenders in there that were playing really well. So it was actually harder for us against 9 men than it is against 10 or 11 men.
I understand that, and that's probably true, but the reality is once they went down to 9 men, they stopped attacking, and so we didn't even have to worry about them going the other end and defending. And that's what I mean about like the referee pretty much giving the game to us in that sense, because Liverpool had no avenues to try and break away, I felt like, when it went down to 9 men, and that was pretty much the game done for them. It was just about trying to get a point. And I understand that it's difficult when you've got pretty much 8 outfield players all defending, all pretty much in and around the penalty area, and it's going to be tough to break them down. But considering they had no attacking threat, I felt pretty much for those last 20 minutes, like I don't think we asked enough questions going forward to say that I was delighted with how we reacted to that situation. Obviously, I'm not upset about it because we kept going, we kept trying to force the issue. We tried to win that game, and I thought the pressure was relentless. But in terms of the actual quality we showed trying to break them down, it was a bit lacking, I felt. And on another day, Liverpool could have taken a point if it wasn't for that own goal. And I just think it wasn't a performance that showed me like, okay, we were better than Liverpool. It was just a performance where we got the result and we take it and we're delighted with it. But I wasn't like blown away by how we played.
Yeah, look, I agree with you to a certain extent. I'm just saying it was just extremely difficult when Liverpool go down to 9 men. And I get what you're saying. You're probably right. I'm probably right. And we just move on. And like at the end of the day, right, at this stage of under Ange Postecoglou's tenure, nobody expected us to be mixing it with Liverpool and right at the top of the league. Yeah, fine, it is only 7 games in, so you can't say we're where we deserve to be or anything like that. But it feels like we're very much ahead of schedule with where we expected to be at this stage under Ange. So you just got to be very positive about every situation.
100%. I am very positive about it, and to get the win was incredible. And look, the start of the season pretty much couldn't have gone better from our point of view. We keep our 100% record at home as well, and we keep the record up, scoring at least 2 goals in every game so far this season as well. So we keep that record up, which is incredible considering we lost Harry Kane at the beginning of the season. We haven't found goals hard to come by at all so far. So onwards and upwards, and I can't wait for what the rest of the season.
We were crying out for Harry Kane yesterday. Harry Kane.
Yeah.
If we had Harry Kane yesterday, that game's won probably in 90 minutes easy.
Yeah, he probably brings that bit of quality and guile. Sorry, that we were missing yesterday.